my friends. I am here to introduce January's reads for the Books Love Everyone book group. We have 2 reads every month but 1 month this year. They will be, or in 2025, they will be a fiction and a nonfiction that are somehow associated with each other. This year, we are starting in January with Jane Eyre and Praying with Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, Praying with Jane Eyre by Vanessa Zoltan, Reflections on Reading as a Sacred Practice. Let's talk a little bit about Zoltan. Vanessa Zoltan has a BA in English Literature and Creative Writing from Washington University in St. Louis, an MS in Nonprofit Management from the University of Pennsylvania, and an MDiv, a Master's of Divinity, from Harvard Divinity School. She is the CEO and founder of Not Sorry Productions. She also runs pilgrimages and walking tours that explore sacred reading and writing. And then it says, our favorite books keep us company, give us hope, and help us find meaning in a chaotic world. In this fresh and relatable work, atheist chaplain Vanessa Zoltan blends memoir and personal growth as she grapples with the notions of family legacy and identity through the lens of her favorite novel, Jane Eyre. Informed by the reading practices of medieval monks and rabbinic scholars from her training at Harvard Divinity School, and filtered through the pages of Jane Eyre, as well as Little Women, Harry Potter, and The Great Gatsby, Zoltan explores topics ranging from the trauma she has inherited as the granddaughter of 4 Holocaust survivors, to the search for hope, meaning, and even magic in our deeply fractured times. Zoltan also reveals simple techniques for reading any work as a sacred text, from Virginia Woolf to Anne of Green Gables to baseball scorecards. Whether you're an avowed Airhead, which I would be, or not, this deeply felt and inspiring book will light the way to a more intimate appreciation for whatever book you love to read. This is a really wonderful exploration of the sacred and making space for the sacred in our lives, and how anything, we can make anything sacred, and we do it all the time to our detriment and to our good. So this just takes a really close look at that through the lens mainly of Jane Eyre. And then of course we have Jane Eyre. I've never actually read a synopsis of Jane Eyre that I can remember. So let's see what it says on the back. This is the Barnes & Noble. I know a lot of people don't like the Barnes & Noble classics, but I find them to be very nicely floppy and also simple. It's a simple layout on the page. I actually really like them, but to each their own. Okay, it says, there's introduction and notes by Susan Ostrov-Weiser in my edition. If you haven't read Jane Eyre, I'm going to say skip all this. Skip all of this. And also, don't read the introduction before you read the book. If you are somehow lucky enough to come across this story for the first time and not know what's going to happen, let that be your reality. Let it be, and just go into it without knowing where this book is going. That is magic, my friend. If I could have that back, I would. If I could read it for the first time again, I would. So don't go searching for answers beforehand. I'm going to read the back. I'm going to read the synopsis. I might skip over a few things. I don't know. I haven't read it. I've never read it. So it says, immediately recognized as a masterpiece when it was first published in 1847, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre is an extraordinary coming-of-age story featuring one of the most independent and strong-willed female protagonists in all of literature. Amen. I love the story about... Okay, so Charlotte and Emily were fresh returned from Brussels, where Charlotte had fallen, drastic is the word that comes to mind, drastically in love with her French professor. And he's a married man. And as far as we can tell, he never encouraged this. This was just her. She just genuinely, drastically fell in love with him. He may have encouraged it. Who knows? But history doesn't leave us that legacy. The sisters need to make money. They decide that they're going to write these books. Emily writes Wuthering Heights, Anne writes Agnes Grey, and Charlotte writes The Professor, which is about basically this French guy who she fell drastically in love with. I'm going to stick with that word drastically. She fell drastically in love with, obsessively in love with. Everybody rejects The Professor. And even now, when you read it, you're like, this is not great. So hurriedly, she sits down to write another book. She's got to write another book. And it's kind of The Professor, but it's from an entirely different perspective. It's from Charlotte's perspective. Now, Jane and Charlotte are different people. Their lives are different, but she really superimposes a lot of events from her own childhood, her own experience into Jane Eyre's life. When it gets sent to the publisher, the editor can't stop reading it. Reads the entire handwritten manuscript in one night. Now that's a hit. Poor and plain, Jane Eyre begins life as a lonely orphan in the household of her hateful aunt. Despite the impression she adores at home, and then later in a harsh boarding school, Jane manages to emerge with her spirit and integrity unbroken. She becomes a governess at Thornfield Hall. And I'm not going to read any of the rest of this. One of the world's most beloved novels, Jane Eyre is a startlingly modern blend of passion, romance, mystery, and suspense. Yes, it is all those things. And we are going to read these two books together. If you only want to read Jane Eyre, great. Please only read Jane Eyre. You can still fully participate in everything that we do. If you only want to read Praying with Jane Eyre, great. Please do. You can fully participate in all the things that we will do. If you want to read them both, feel free. I will ask, please don't just rely. If you're not going to read Praying with Jane Eyre and you're only going to read Jane Eyre, but you're like, oh, I read it 10 years ago, I don't need to read it again and I'll participate, please don't do that. Please read it with fresh eyes. You are a different person, therefore this is a different book. Okay? So please read it fresh in January to join in. The Fable app is not all that I would hope it would be. We can actually only pick one. I can only feature one book for the book club per month. Maybe there's a way and I haven't figured it out yet, but I've been playing around. I can only feature one book in the month. It's gonna say, when you go to join the club, it's gonna say that we're only reading Jane Eyre, and that's fine. All of the progress marks for Jane Eyre, or all of the progress marks for the month, will be Jane Eyre related, but I will also make notes, I will hand type in notes of the progress points for Praying with Jane Eyre, which you do not have to stick with. They create these little timelines of how to keep up with the group and what should be read by when in order to make it through the month and stay abreast of what everybody else is reading in that text. You don't have to follow those things. There's that portion of the app, which if you've not been in there, this will all make sense once you join the group. Honestly, it's super intuitive. But there's also the discussion area where you can write about anything that you want. And it's in that area that I'd like us to focus our interactions, because that way we can talk about both books. Each month I will feature the fiction read as the main read. It doesn't mean I value it more. It's just that I have to pick one, right? And so you'll know that you're in the right place each month because the Fable group will be featuring the fiction read that we are focusing on in that month, with the exception of the month that we are reading about Dorothy Wordsworth. because both of those books are nonfiction. And I'll tell you how we're doing it when we get to that point. I think it's June or July. So we'll figure that out when we get there. For January, the link to join the Fable app is in the comment section below. There is also a link to join it in the link tree, which is in the comment section below. And there is the link tree in my bio on Bookstagram, same link tree, but the link, of course, is there as well. You can feel free to interact in the Fable app in the book group with an ongoing discussion. You can feel free to just comment on this video or any of the other Jane Eyre related videos that get published in the month of January and February, because our wrap-ups will be in February. Not all of our wrap-ups will be in February. Our wrap-ups will be the following month. You can feel free to talk with me in the comments of any Jane Eyre photos on Bookstagram. You can feel free to not talk at all, but just read what we read when we read it. That is fine too. There will be a Zoom discussion. The Zoom for this month is happening the first Saturday in February. The first Saturday in February. That will not be filmed and put on this channel, but what I will do is take the wisdom from our Fable discussions, from any other kinds of discussions that we're having, from any comments that we're having, and the wisdom and the insights from our Zoom discussion for anybody who is able to and wants to attend that. And I will do a summary wrap-up video of our experience with these two books, and I will post that the Wednesday following our Zoom meeting. So you can keep an eye out for that. And you might hear yourself quoted in that, but I will not film our Zooms because I want anybody to feel like they can come in any state that they're in and, you know, keep your camera off or whatever you want to do, whether you just want to be a fly on the wall and listen or whether you want to be fully engaged and have a conversation. I'm excited to get to know some of you and to hear your voices and to know who you are a little better through the ever-present community maker of books. But at the same time, I want you to feel comfortable, I want you to feel safe, and I want you to know that I'm not going to put those things on this channel, okay? So come as you are. I think that's it. We start January 1st. The link to join the Fable app is below, and comment where commenting feels safe for you. And I'm excited to read one of my favorite books of all time with all of you. I know some of you don't like it. That's okay. You're allowed. And also to explore more deeply with you this idea of sacred text, reading a sacred practice. I think that's it. Let's go read.